Hello and welcome to Channels Book Club. I am Olakunle Kasumo. It's great to be back on the show. Nigeria is one of the most diverse countries in the world and it has a rich and complex history. On your screen is a map of the country that attempts to show some of its ethnic divisions. You can see up there in the north the Hausa, Kanuri, and Manga tribes, amongst others. Down south, you can see the Yoruba and Igbo tribes, amongst others. There are about 371 ethnic groups in Nigeria, each with at least one language and multiple languages in many cases. If you do not belong to one of the following ethnic groups, I wonder if you have heard about them before now. Kaka in Adamawa, Kamba, that's Adamawa, Ndoro, Taraba, Mumuye, I'm not sure I pronounced that well, Nkum, Cross River, Nupe is a bit popular, Mbum in Taraba, and there is Mandara, there is Mabo, there is Lamja, there is Kwato, there is Kwame, and Kubi, and so many others. We're talking about 371 ethnic groups. It is incredible diversity. But Nigeria has not always been Nigeria as we know it today. The Nigeria the world knows now is the product of an audacious amalgamation in 1914 by the British of hundreds of ethnic groups in the area of the River Niger. The result of that amalgamation led to the creation of this geographical area we now call Nigeria. Prior to then, the British had created the Southern Protectorate and the Northern Protectorate, which were administered as two separate countries. The intriguing story of the creation of Nigeria, laced with all the major characters that make up that story, is brilliantly told in this book titled A Fatherless People, The Secret Story of How the Nigerians Missed the Road to the Promised Land. The book was written by Dele Ogun, a lawyer and history buff, who practices in both the United Kingdom and Nigeria. The copy with me here is a hardback copy, and it has 328 pages of very gripping narratives. We got together to review Dele Ogun's book and inevitably explore parts of Nigeria's history. Enjoy this. Dele, nice to have you on Channels Book Club.
Thank you, Kunle.
Great to have you here. A Fatherless People, the secret story of how the Nigerians missed the road to the Promised Land. Suddenly your book just emerged out there and everybody seems to be talking about it. What's the core of this book? I mean, for people out there who are unaware of what the book is about, what's the core, if you were to encapsulate this book in a few sentences?
I would explain this as follows. I became concerned that with the troubles that we've been experiencing in our lifetime, in our father's lifetime, the trajectory that we're on, crisis here, crisis there, conflict here, conflict everywhere. I became concerned that we were beginning to blame ourselves. The narrative that was gaining currency, both internally and externally, was that the problem was we, the Nigerians. And if that is correct, then we are in serious trouble because we're stuck with we, the Nigerians. We are who we are. I wasn't convinced by that narrative. I suspected that the real explanation was not the people, but the structure, the systems that we're operating. Every country has its mix of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if the ugly are predominating and directing the course of affairs in our country, both officially and unofficially, then look for the explanation in the system. And if I could find the explanation in the system, then we know that there's still hope for Nigerians, that we're not different from any other country. It's how we configure ourselves, how we arrange ourselves. That is the problem. And what comes through, the central nugget in this book, is that truly, it's not Nigerians. It is the system, the structure that we operate in. We had, in a nutshell, in the beginning there were two Nigerias, twins I call them, offspring of the same political parents, British political parents. Southern Nigeria, Northern Nigeria, each had its own operating system, which worked for the territory. It was the amalgamation of 1914 that sort of fused the two, conjoined the twins, if you like. But when you do that, you then got to make a judgment. Those who were doing the conjoining had to make a judgment as to what operating system was to apply. There were two in operation, one in the north, one in the south. Which one was to apply? And the decision was made to apply the system that was operating in the north effectively, to apply it to the south. That meant almost like a brain transplant. You had to remove the brain and transplant something else. And that gelling together is what we've been struggling with ever since. Not that amalgamation could not have worked. It was a question of how it was done. And what this book explains is that it was done in the wrong way, and ever since we have been perpetuating the problem.
There are those who will argue vehemently, or propose rather vehemently, that, look, let's stop blaming the British and let's stop blaming how we were set up way back in 1914 and pre-1914. We should move beyond all that. And what's your take on that? Because the core of your message here in this book is the problem lies with how we're structured and how we're set up, and we've not been able to deal with that. So what's your take on that?
Yes, it's a fashionable argument, and it's a lazy argument when people say, stop blaming the British, take responsibility. People must take responsibility for what they are responsible for. When you start taking responsibility for what you are not responsible for, you can only end up confused and you end up demoralized. Some responsibility, and a key part of the responsibility, must rest with the architects of the country. As the book explains, we are not the architects. Nigerians did not make Nigeria. Nigeria was made for Nigerians. And so therefore...
That's hard to take in, but it's true.
Yes. So therefore, the architect has to take some responsibility. Now, what the book does not do is not a bash the British book. No, it's not, because it recognizes that there were two classes of colonial administrators. There were some who were genuinely on the side of Nigerians, who wanted the betterment and the upliftment of Nigerians. Governors like Walter Egerton. They were development orientated. They were looking for harness the resources of this territory in order to build the infrastructure. And this is why I said the amalgamation and the template, the operating system that was chosen at the point of the amalgamation was the critical misroad, because there was a decision to be made as to which governor, as between the governor of southern Nigeria and the governor of northern Nigeria. Lugard was the governor of northern Nigeria. Egerton was the governor of southern Nigeria. Egerton was development orientated. He was looking to better the condition of the people he had responsibility for. Lugard was the other type of colonial administrator.
Strangely, he's the most celebrated.
There you are. As I said, the victors write the history. So as between that battle between two colonial governors, each of them looking at Nigeria and say, how do we take it forward? It was Lugard who won the toss. Lugard, whose focus was much more extractive. What can we take out of this place? Not focusing on the future of Nigerians. So that's why I say that was a critical juncture.